So this is Faith of Faith and Books, and I'm going to do a hopefully brief video on a homeschooling issue that was asked about a few weeks ago at least. It's been a while, and I apologize for kind of forgetting about it and then remembering. I think it's Homeschool in the World was the channel that asked about this, or the subscriber, about transitioning to college for homeschoolers. So I'm assuming you're just talking about transitioning into college life, and you weren't asking about transcripts or how to actually get into college as a homeschooler. So I'm just going to address the transition issue. And, you know, I'm not an expert. I have a sampling of 5 kids, my own kids. 4 of them seem to have transitioned very well. 1 did not. So that's my sample. So first of all, just to think about this issue. Oh wait, my daughter is texting me. Anyway, I'll respond to her in just a minute. Where was I? Oh, okay. So in general, transitioning to college is not just a homeschooler issue. Kids who go to private and public schools also might encounter difficulty transitioning. And I think colleges and universities traditionally look at freshman retention rates and, you know, try to put in programs and stuff, address the issue. Because a lot of students at that age have trouble. It's, you know, they're immature, they're 18, a lot of them are burnt out, but they feel they have to go to college, so they're not really motivated to go. Or they're just immature, or they're homesick, or they wind up with a rotten roommate, or, you know, there's all sorts of factors. And I, for one, am fine with people taking a year or 2 off between high school and college to mature a bit. Maybe they can work, or they can do volunteer work, or they can take some classes part-time, whatever. Sometimes you might need space and time in order to really make a serious commitment to college. And college is expensive, so you shouldn't just do it just because everyone else is doing it. It should be a real authentic choice on the part of the student, I think. So that said, it's not just a homeschooler thing. And I think sometimes homeschoolers actually have an advantage over kids who attend brick and mortar schools, because when you homeschool high school, it's actually a lot more like college than it is high school. It isn't broken down as much. In your high school, you're meeting with the teacher, you know, 5 or 4 times a week. When you homeschool for high school, often you'll just have a class online, or you'll go to a co-op class, and it's just once a week. And so you then the student has to figure out how to get all the work done so that when that class rolls around, they're prepared for it. So it takes a lot of time management and those kinds of skills to succeed as a high school student if you're homeschooling and you're doing that sort of thing. And so that's much more similar to the way colleges work, where they really expect a lot of you, you know, a lot more on your part, whereas high school tends to sort of spoon feed you and break it down, and it's hard to, you know, it's hard to be independent and feel, you know, in charge of yourself if, you know, you can't even go to the bathroom without asking permission or something. So I do think there's an element to homeschooling that actually lends itself to preparing students for college life, because they do have to be more independent and shoulder more responsibility when it comes to getting the coursework done. I think, if you're homeschooling that way. Or another thing that prepares kids for college is that a lot of homeschoolers dual enroll, or they take classes from the community college. So they already have had a taste of college life. And so that prepares them as well. So I think that there's certain, also another thing is that a lot of students that go through brick and mortar schools, they learn how to game the system. And I remember my oldest daughter, when she went to college, she was shocked that how many kids would ask for extensions when she knew that they should have been doing, writing their paper or whatever, but they just waited too long, and then they knew that they could just go ask for an extension. Whereas she had not encountered that. And so she was, she got her paper, the draft done a week early so that she could go to the writing center to get it, proofed by somebody, and somebody would help her, with her spelling and punctuation and all that stuff. And she was just shocked that these other kids just sort of didn't care, and they would wait till the last minute, and then the professors would just give them extensions. Like, wow, that's just so, she just saw it as like really not particularly admirable. So that sort of thing. I mean, I think, students that go through brick and mortar schools can be quite jaded like that, and they're not taking it seriously. They're not taking their coursework seriously. So anyway, so that's one thing. I wanted to also talk about, I'm looking at my notes down here, why kids don't transition well. Because your child might not transition well. And I think in the homeschool world, a lot of and I'm going to say mothers, although it could be parents, but it tends to be sort of the project of the mother to get these kids through high school, and they see their child getting into college and transitioning as sort of a marker of their own success, which you can understand at one level, but I think a lot of moms take it way too personally, and I don't think it's always evidence that you did things right or didn't do things right, because there are kids who are gonna want to go to school even if you were a really lousy mother. They feel called to be a doctor, or they feel called to do something, or they're fascinated, or they have a passion about something, and so they have that self-motivation, and a lousy parent isn't going to stand in the way very much. And then you can have mothers who are so conscientious and trying really hard and doing everything right, and the child just isn't ready for college, or they aren't really called to go to college, or whatever. And I think if you, the homeschooling mother, see success in college as the evidence that you did it right, I think you've got the wrong perspective. I don't think that's your child's education is their education. It's their life. It's not yours. You're just there to guide them and encourage them and try to smooth over some of the rougher spots. But it's not yours. It's their success or their failure. It's not yours. So I don't, and I do sincerely believe that some kids aren't meant to go to college. I think we have this weird, and to me it's kind of a classist view that everybody needs to go to college. And it's just not true. Everyone should be educated, but that doesn't equate. You can educate yourself by reading, right? You don't need to go to a building, and especially nowadays you can watch so many videos too. I mean, it's not even just reading. We've all got access to all these experts in fields, and we can watch lectures and documentaries and all these things. So I don't think everyone's called to go to college, and I don't think it's the right thing. I don't think it makes the world a more perfect place if everybody goes to college. I just don't think that's true. And I think we tend to be classist in this country, where we really, really push everybody to go to college, even in areas where you don't need a college degree to succeed at all. And what we've done is inflated all these degrees and certificates, and so that people who really, what happens is people in the workplace who really know their stuff and have a lot of experience get passed over for younger people who have some empty degree that doesn't really mean anything. So I think we have a weird approach to college, and I think it's classist in that, you know, we look down on people who do real stuff like that, build our infrastructure of our society, our plumbing and our roads, and all those things are really, really important and contribute to the common good, and we kind of look down on them, and somehow we think it's better to be a paper pusher in a cubicle somewhere, a job that, you know, when the company gets on hard times, you're going to get laid off. I think we have a really twisted understanding of what's important in terms of education. So not every kid needs to go to college. That's okay if they don't go to college. They do have to become competent, well-adjusted adults. That's the real goal, right? It's not whether they go to college or not, but whether they're well-adjusted and competent as adults. So, and that doesn't always include college. So, but to talk specifically about transitioning onto campus life. So just anecdotally from my own kids, I have two kids, my oldest son and my youngest daughter, who transitioned really. I mean, one's in college. So two graduated, and one even went on to get a master's degree. That was my oldest daughter. And then my oldest son graduated from a music conservatory. My middle son dropped out after freshman year, and then he tried again to go to night school at the community college. He had gotten in initially to a private small college, but that didn't work out. And then he tried to go to community college at night, and that didn't work out either. He's just not motivated to go to college. And he's really smart, so we really wanted him. We thought he should go, but he doesn't have the motivation, so we just have to wait and see. It's either going to happen to him, and he's going to decide that he wants to pursue a career, and he needs a degree. That's the only way he's going to go, because he's very, very task oriented. He's very hands-on oriented, so he really likes being outside. He likes doing things with his hands. He's just not an academic, even though he's super smart. So, and then I have my two youngest are both in college right now, and they're both transitioning very well, but they're doing it in completely different ways with different attitudes. So kids really vary, you know. I mean, my oldest daughter didn't really know what she wanted to do. Well, she wanted to be a youth minister, because we had a really good youth minister at our church when she was a teenager, and so she thought she might like to do that because she liked to work with kids and stuff. And then she decided when she got to school she wanted to go into law, but then by the time she was graduating, that really wasn't that appealing, and so she didn't know what she wanted to do until after she had graduated, and she decided she was going to go into education. Then she went and got a master's in education. However, even though she didn't know what she wanted to do, she was a good college student because she just took it seriously. She wanted to do well, and that's what motivated her. Just a sincere desire to do well in whatever she endeavored to do. My oldest son, who went to the music conservatory, and my youngest daughter, who's just now a freshman in college, they're kind of similar in that in high school they found their passion, and then that plotted their plan. And so they both, my son transitioned very well. He was devoted to music, and he worked really hard. He took a year off between high school and college because he knew the audition was the number one important thing to get into this music conservatory, and he didn't feel quite confident enough. So he spent a year just studying. He studied sight reading, and he studied ear training and music theory, and he also studied and took CLEP tests so that he could get so he could CLEP out of liberal arts stuff like history and literature. I think he just did history. Anyway, and that was a hard year for him because emotionally he was already out the door. And that's another thing. Kids, you know, a kid's ready and they're going to transition well if emotionally they're already gone. You know, kids go through the senior slump. It's really hard to finish up that last year. It seems that they're kind of a little depressed, and they're ready for a change. They want to get out, but if they can't get out right away, it can be kind of depressing. So I think my son was a little bit depressed that year, between high school and college. Even though he was working towards his goal, it was hard for all his friends to go off to college, and to be stuck at home. That was a rough transition year at home. And then when he finally got up to school, I think he was so delighted to be away. Not that, we didn't have any conflicts or anything really. It was just that he was time, at a certain time they want to fledge, they want to go off and be more independent. It's just natural. So you can't take that personally or as a rejection. It's just developmentally what's happening. So he did really well in school because he knew why he was there. He was really motivated. He has an incredible work ethic. So he did really well in school as well. And my youngest daughter in high school got fascinated with psychology and decided she wanted to go into that. And so she just, she's a freshman now. She's in the middle of her second semester. Her first semester, she did well. She got B's and A's, and she did flip out a few times about papers being due. And so she just had one particular teacher that was really vague and seemed to change things arbitrarily, and she never knew where she was with this particular teacher, so she just didn't get along. All the other teachers were good, but this one, and so that caused a lot of anxiety because everything was new to her, and she, she gets anxious anyway. But this semester, she's doing really well. She loves her psychology. She loves the subject, and she just told me the other week that this semester she's got, after midterm, she's got straight A's. So she's adjusting really well, probably better than she thinks she is. And she was talking to me the other week about how she knows she needs to go get a master's. So she's on it. She knows what she wants to do, and she's got a purpose, and she knows she needs to go to school. So that really helps with transitioning. Also, getting a good roommate helps. That really helps too, because roommate problems can really, if you're lonely or homesick and you have roommate problems, that can really derail you. And I think the other thing that I have not encountered with my children, at least I don't know about it, is I think some kids go away to school and they get all caught up in that sort of party, atmosphere, and they party too hardy and they fall behind or they get messed up, and so that's another thing that can really affect a student's transition into college. My youngest son is also in college right now, and he's transitioning well too, but in his own way. So he went to community college during high school. He went to high school. He went to a private high school for his 9th grade because he wanted to try out school. Then he came home for 10th grade and basically didn't do much. But then he dual enrolled with the community college, and he was, he did fine there. And he did that for a couple of years, and then he transferred to the state university that he can commute to from our house. And he's doing that, and he's taking his time, and I'm okay with him taking his time. He's not going to rush through in 4 years. He doesn't really quite know what he wants to do, and I'm okay with that because I do think everyone has their own arc, and, just like my oldest daughter didn't really know what she was going to wind up doing until after she graduated. He's going to be even slower than that. It's going to take him a little while to figure it out. But this semester, he just decided he was going to go part-time to college and work part-time. So that's the new plan. That's how he's going to do it. It's just going to take him a little bit longer. But since he's going to a less expensive school, I'm not feeling pressure about it, or it's okay for him to do it that way. Whereas I think my daughter, who's living away at school, she really wants to get through in 4 years, and she's got a plan. But either way works for me, because some kids need a longer time to figure out what they're doing, and that's okay. We have the luxury of giving them that time. And as long as they're doing productive things, that are moving forward, even if it's maybe moving forward at a slower pace than other kids would be doing, that's fine. And for my middle son, who didn't, college just didn't work out, he's doing good things too. So he's gainfully employed. He likes what he does. He's a good kid. I enjoy his company. So I don't consider it a failure because he didn't transition. So anyway, I guess when kids go away to school, you should, give them as much emotional support as you can or as they need. And, I think signs that they're going to transition well are if they're self-motivated. Like if you have to fill out all the forms for them to get them to apply, if you're nagging them to apply to schools, that's not a good sign. They should be wanting to do that themselves. And maybe coming to you for some help or advice, but they should be in charge of that. I don't know. That might be all my words of wisdom that I have about that. I hope I answered any of your questions or worries or thoughts you might have had. And let me know in the comments if there's something I didn't touch upon. So this isn't really a booktube video. This is a homeschooling video, but I hope it helped. Okay, bye.